Welcome, everybody, to tonight's ID Network Membership Organization show. My name is Dr. Lee Jensen, and we started the ID Network for inspiration and encouragement in 1983. We've been going at this for quite a long time, and our circle helps people find something to be really passionate and creative about, and learn how to make that something, and then learn how to market it in the marketplace. And our webinars are geared, what I call the Artistic Business Academy, the ABA, to try and help you figure out the business side of those applications. This show is called Ecstatic because it's different than most of my weekly shows that go throughout the entire year, because in the Easter weekend is when my own career launched 39 years ago at this time of the year. So I get to do a separate special show, and it's always something I love to do. I enjoy telling this story over and over again because no one else wants to. Basically, I love bragging about the fact that something that started so easy and so simple turned into a whole new world for me and an awful lot of other people. I welcome everybody here tonight that's in the green room and in the film strip. Appreciate you coming and sitting down and participating. Let's jump on this and see if we can do something tonight that'll maybe light a fire in your own life. Where are we here now? And I want to go to that one and start the film strip. Alrighty. As I start into this sequence of slides, I've worked with this same sequence for a number of years, and every year I try and go back through it again and again to see if I can't simplify it or improve it in some way to try and tell the story that I hope will outlast my own individual lifetime. Never quite know when my last show is part of the sequence. It's really challenging to have people my age range now pass away. They sure didn't expect to be gone today, and yet yesterday everything in their life was fine. And that fragileness of life and living is something I think we need to seriously consider, because if you've got some things burning a hole in you that need to get done, then we better get after it. And that's the purpose and the design of this show tonight. Out of very simple things can come a great deal of satisfaction, and it's up to us individually to find what might that be. I had never dreamed the second I'd touch a high-speed drill on an eggshell it would torque my life so much. I mean, it just changed everything from then on. And so the goal tonight of my show for you is to find a dream worth living for. If you wake up every day and you're excited about what you've got to get after that day, and it's something purposeful and worthwhile for you, then that gradually, as you put your energy into it, it begins to give you energy back. The more you invest, the more it returns. And to me, that's true passion. That's the thing, the gift of the gods, the great problem solving of all living in life is passion. I boil it down into opportunity intersection. This is how I named my book, of how to take a hobby and turn it into a great rest of your life idea. And the concept of taking it from your as-is world and moving it over into a better world to improve your lifestyle is, in my mind, opportunity intersection. The company evolved from Paragrave to Paragraphics to now Profitable Hobbies on the Web. I found having a good time is my job motto, and it's become the byline of the company ever since 1983. I sat down at a kitchen table and signed the paperwork on September 12th, 1983, and for all these years now, we've been a company that has equipment, training packages, and programs to help you find a really great hobby and then figure out how to turn that into a life and a living. We signed up for an 800 number years and years and years ago, and that little 800 number has paid the bills now. A lot of fun experiences and exchanges for well over 30 years. This is a picture I took of my Grandma Jessie. Grandma lived to be 102 years of age and 102 years old, and what a pistol. This woman lost her husband when she was 53 and raised her 4 children alone for the rest of her lifetime. And in her last few years, she would stay with each of us for a while. And Grandma would constantly tell me, Louis R., you just hang in there. Whatever your best ideas are, you just hang in there, because she already knew I was an idea nut. So I'm going to dedicate tonight to Grandma Jessie. I do every year, because I've tried to listen to that very, very wise and calming reassurance. I found something really worthwhile to hang in there for, and that's what most ask of me now, is how did you find that? How did you come up with what should I do with the rest of my precious life that I have left? And I try and reassure as many as I possibly can. I think what happened was I just found a really fun thread of interest, and it just resonated with my soul and my heart. I loved doing what I was doing. And I just decided that, you know what, I'm going to pursue this with everything I've got. Now, whether you don't find this thread of interest, or you give up and don't continue to search until you do find it, most people short-circuit their future. I think that's such a personal issue, something that you just flat have to understand. And I go back through the history books of my own experience once a year in this show for this very reason. Because what we're hunting for is inspiration for you. I've got mine. I'm going to finish this on out now. And a wonderful part of what we're playing with, you can do till your last breath. And learn to develop your own skills and abilities in and around this thread of interest is such a huge thing. There's just nothing better for growing old. This was the first thing I cut in an eggshell. The guy on Facebook today or yesterday says, what did your first egg look like? And I says, well, all I did was cut little round holes because I didn't know anything else to do. Took a $6.99 bird and fired that thing up on the Saturday just before Easter in 1977. And cut little round holes in the shell, because that's all I could think to do. But that one moment reset everything in my life. And it startled me so much that I continued to play with it. Now that feels like, to me, a comfort zone thing. You're either going to move up on and dare move your life into something new or try some new things, or you'll stay in the rut that you're in and then never ever get to that. I'm getting ready to launch a new little exploration on my own, and I just sit back and think, God, Lou, what are you doing? And but I've lived this way my whole life. I'm not real afraid of trying new things, and most of humanity keep themselves locked in their routine because they're afraid to try anything new. So what started out as my journey very quickly became our journey. Everybody that's sitting in on the show tonight are likely a part of the ID Network, and we just need one more person to fill out our triangle. Our triple combination really does have a place for just you. Gary Price is the designer of the Synergy piece that we use for the logo for the ID Network, and Gary helped launch everything here as well as his own career. He's doing so much on Facebook now, and it's really fun to watch what he sees and thinks about and understands, because there's a pattern there. Once you find a pattern of what someone else is doing that you like, then get to know them more. Reach into their life and see if you can't get some advice and counsel on what maybe you could do to climb your own mountain of success. It's my hope that we're trying to build a masterpiece here. Most artistic, creative endeavors people do entirely on their own because they're that kind of a person. But if you can find a like-minded soul to climb with, that changes the course of history. That increases the possibility of success almost without measure. I've lived my life based on the Robert Frost poem about I came across the roads in the wood one day, and I took the path less traveled, and it made all the difference. If this should just help signal you as to what possibly could I be looking forward to, because it's going to be the one that's less traveled. If everyone's going that way, the odds are not very good that you're on the right road. I think it's just critical, because when you ask yourself the question, this opens up every video that I've done with my book, Opportunity Intersection. It's the first question I ask you. And I ask it to repeat 7 times. Because until you can answer this question and you've defined it and you have a bit of a plan about going that direction, you really are still lost. Okay? And I think it's just so helpful if you can undo that and overcome that. The Talent Discovery Network, I like the hope and the dream one day that this becomes the inspiration and encouragement television. And that you, whatever it is you decide to master, will become a particular participating person in the future of the INE network and how it will influence other people as well as your own talents. So Our Journey TV is going to put you right here and mix you with the same kind of folks that are pursuing a similar kind of endeavor as you. The moment the INE network was started, Bill Janney had just become a master in our program, and we had our meeting, our annual meeting in Las Vegas, and Bill gave me this briefcase to carry all over the country because I travel a lot. And on the base of it, he had carved right here, "Thanks for the inspiration and the encouragement." And this is a letter that he sent me a few years later, to both Keith and I. I started all this carving thing so I could make things for hunting trips. In the last 12 years, I've traveled to Germany 3 times, Italy 2 times, New Zealand and Africa, plus all over the USA. I think of you and Keith more than you will ever know. Got my start with you both. Now, we're talking about going after something that becomes really involving for you. But this letter represents a thought that not a lot of you realize, that once you begin to succeed and have something that you've mastered, then you have something of experience that you can share. And I don't know how you'd feel to get a letter from someone that you'd help get started like this. But this one draws blood. This was really, really fun for Keith and I, because Bill came and took time with Keith Hone to get a feel for the drill and get started a little quicker. And it's turned out rather well for him. This was the day when he gave me the briefcase. And once Bill began to realize that getting published was the secret of this whole thing of influence, he's been rather good about it. And we all shoot for something major every year, some one thing to come out about you that promotes your name and reputation. And it's not hard to do, it's just you've got to know how to do, okay? If this is your story, I tell my story over and over and over again, okay? But now it's time for you to begin to organize and tell your story. And don't do it differently every time and just shoot for the hip when someone says, "What do you do for a living in life?" or "What's your favorite thing?" Don't just then decide to talk. Tell your story, organize your story. How did you get started in this direction? Make note of the special events, the singular things that just really lit your life up. and begin to build value in you, and get it like a cultured story instead of just off the top of your head. Could you do an hour-long show someday like this one? I had such fun this weekend. We were up to Tam and I went up to the resort area for her birthday. Happy birthday, Tamarie. And there was a lady in this store that was organizing picture frames all over the floor. And I teased her a little bit about being a highly creative person, and then I started to tell the story. And as I told her I was a dentist, used to be a dentist, she says, "Oh my gosh," she says, "my husband's a dentist." It just could not have happened at a more unique time. It was just the most amazing kind of moment. Well, then I've got something really fun to explain, because every dentist hates Lou Jensen. I found the real money in dentistry is making the tool, how to learn what it does, rather than the drill that the dentist uses on its patients. Okay? And I got to retire early and quit and go play. I'm really the only painless dentist on the planet. But the interesting thing that you should think about is that the potential of what I found was right under everybody's nose, under my own nose and every other dentist's nose, and even every patient's nose, for a whole lot of years. Okay? All I did was change and adjust the design of the dental handpiece a lousy 90 degrees. 90 degrees, a little tiny change, changed how this is done, from this handpiece design to this handpiece design. Now, we've come a million miles since this moment. This was the first handpiece ever produced in the world. But we designed the air hose to come directly in onto the turbine because we hadn't figured out how to bring it in the back yet. Do you see this drill here, this dental drill? This was the first attempts at a contra angle, and they cranked it right here, and then the burr came out the side here, and that's, can you imagine drilling a hole with that thing? You know how hard that would be, and how slow it would be, and how painful on the patient? Dentistry's gone through some really rough times over the years. But to me, what you should be getting out of this is that there's a big little secret of this whole process. It's how innovation really works. It is never a lightning bolt all the way from playing with an eggshell over here, cutting it with a high-speed drill, to where we are now. It is not that way. It doesn't happen. It's an evolution of ideas. Because the first idea was to cut an eggshell, and then I thought I invented eggshell art, and so I pursued that for quite a while. But then it dawned on me that the straight high-speed drill would really help. And then I went to a kit. And this sequence of thinking and our ability to adjust that at the time when things needed to, the new ideas showed up. Okay? And if you'll lean in that with that kind of an idea and keep these threads of interest firmly in mind, I think the good things will happen for you as they have for me along the way. Okay? All innovators know that the real secret is play. If it's something fun and you're having a good time doing it, keep doing it. But be really observant about the problems. Edison said that problems are nothing more than opportunities disguised in workflows. So if you'll watch the problems in front of what you're struggling with and what you're doing, you'll see the potential of innovation, okay? I just hand out passionate prescription anymore. I don't give any pain pills out anymore, okay? One of my favorite people on the planet who I just admire no end is Walt Disney. And Walt had this treasure in his own heart that led him and moved him in the directions that he went. If you've never read the life story, there's a huge big red book that's Walt Disney's complete life, approved Walt Disney life story. It's just amazing. That's one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. And if you realize in 1928 when Walt went after Disney after Snow White, no one had ever done a full-length featured animated movie before. And they were talking about this whole process because he had practically bankrupted his company trying to do this. And if you know how animation was done in those days, each picture movement was drawn, hand-drawn, and then filmed in sequence, and that's how they made them look like they moved. Hand-drawn, hand-painted. He was sitting next to Roy at the end of the first showing, and Roy said, I was just terrified because I knew Walt didn't like the result that they had produced. And he says, I knew we were about to get a Scotch blessing and a complete redo, and I'm the poor guy that had to go find enough money to keep the process going and pay the payroll. And I thought, can you imagine that decision and that moment? Have enough courage and enough, what do you want to call it, to go ahead and realize it's still not good enough, because he was famous for that.
The word you're looking for is tenacity.
Tenacity. Thank you, Mel. That's got to be it. That's it. And to then make $100 million on it in those days, it is, talk about pure justice. It just had to be done that way. I'm going to give you a little bit of my own personal Lou Jensen philosophy right now, but I think I'm really pretty close. I think what most people want is to have a little degree of success in their life before they die. To have lived your whole life and all you did was pay the bills and struggle. What? Oh, how discouraging can that be? And so deciding for you what would be success, what does it take for you to climb some mountain that you did not dare tackle before, or do something that you've never done before and accomplish something to that degree? Usually making a really substantial goal and going after it is very helpful with that, okay? And I throw everybody at this word, what you ought to do is counsel. It's a whisper. It's something that comes out of the blue and says, hey, pay attention to this. Being happy doesn't mean that everything is perfect. It means that you've decided to look beyond the imperfections and go for it. If the imperfection keeps you from trying, that means your attitude is what's screwed up. And what you want to do is push that a little bit, okay? Nobody ever wrote down a plan to be broke, to flat, lazy, or stupid. Those things are what happens when you don't have a plan. Listen to that. Listen to that counsel. No one makes this kind of plan, but that's where we end up when we don't have a plan. If any rule will do, then you're undoubtedly going to end up somewhere where you didn't want to end up. So, the next big question is, how in the world does a person find this degree of success? The real fact of life and living is that most of us, as we get older, our ideals and our standards decrease. They slide downward, not upward. And so if you're on the older generation listening tonight, then you got to dig even deeper. You've got to push even harder. You've got to do a lot to change the rut that your living is already in. When I stumbled onto the Italian word "serotrovo," which is search within, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, because that's just going to be, that's my mental playground. That's my dream of my life and my living, where I have basically done all my playing and creating for the last 25 years. And the idea of keeping serotrovo alive, the dream alive, until the reality shows up is what I'm hoping you'll get out of this tonight. The dream is really phenomenal, because without it you probably won't even take on the goal, okay? And if you're going after any degree of success, you're going to have to get beyond the coasting factor. You can't just wait and let life see if it's going to work out. I think you have to make a plan and go after it. And every day you challenge yourself and accomplish something that goes in the direction of that dream. If you've got something really challenging to go after, then go after it with some serious perseverance. You can make a plan and stick to that plan. You will learn how to love what you do. And even a little bit of accomplishment in this category brings a tremendous degree of success and satisfaction. I started my liberal ledger years ago. This is my personal journal. I've talked about it often. And I put in it all the ideas and concepts that I wanted to rub off on me and my living. And when you can put a concept in there that is a degree of challenge, you can kind of begin to measure where you're headed by the degree of success or the degree of easygoing or challenging. If it's too easygoing, you know you're going in the wrong direction. You just know it. That's the path most traveled, not the least traveled. You've got to find a way to get a dream that fires up a serious plan, a serious direction, and keep going in that pathway. I keep trying to convince you how much my journals help me, help you figure out a path and then stay on that path, finding something worthwhile, satisfying to hang in there with, and that is a huge secret of living. You'll not find this. This will be under every person of success that you've ever met. So when should you start this electronic digital journal and begin to learn how to use it? It just dawned on me a couple of days ago. I don't think I've done a show about how to use my journal, how I use it. Because as you scan through it now, digital photos with Google they collect at Google on the cloud everything you've played with on social media for the whole year and put it in this one place for you that it automatically begins to categorize it for you. And I didn't realize that for a long time. And if you scan through every picture you've interacted with, screen captured or put in your phone or on your computer, Google Photos now has that for the whole year. It's the most revealing thing on the planet to go back through slowly. Take a whole Sunday. Go back through every picture you've plowed into your digital journal. Now, I do it a lot because it's so rewarding. I love doing it. I see a visual image that I really like. Bam, it goes in my digital journal. And then also is kept over in Google Photos. And I can scan that and I can see details that interest me. I can see colors that interest me. Concepts begin to show up because they'll show up in repeat form. And it's the most amazing thing that the computer will do that for you now. You own a phone and you've got a nice smartphone and a decent contract. Bam, Google will just do it for you. The biggest difference between how I've gone about my own life and living is I had a plan to guide my way. And I go after those similar things. The target out in front of my living is what's happened here. I really wasn't going after things by accident. I roll the radio on as I'm going into town or something in the morning, and he's always there. And some things I like, he says, and some things I don't like that he says. But the other day he said, I've been at this for 24 straight years. Now it'll be 25 years. And I'm going, you know what? I've been at this for nearly 40 years. On the same pathway for 40 years. And the fun part of the story is all of these groups of people that put up with their dad. We've evolved into quite a family circle now, and to have this group of people know who I am and put up with my eccentricity, it's not easy to live with a nutcase for a dad. But I took the chance to change my entire life and living a long time ago. When I finally decided I had enough, it was doing well enough, I could take the chance of quitting dentistry and move in this whole new direction, was probably the singular moment of my whole life. But because of that, you can kind of trust the fact that Lou Jensen generally is going to have a plan for the future of his life, okay? And if you suddenly begin to play with this part of your thinking, I used the colors of the rainbow and the whole color spectrum, because I like this thought that most good ideas have this same expanded spectrum, and we're all just over here. All we can see it is yellow. The thought is just here, when in reality it could be here, 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 or here. And you have to be the one that begins to zero in on that. John Lennon said, the time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time, folks. There is a paradigm. There is a pattern here. The clue is that para. Para is the most centered place. Para prefix means most centered, as in paradise. And if you start to look in that direction, then ask the universe, you've got more than enough ability to ask a question to the universe and then wait and expect an answer. I got a chance over the Easter weekend to talk to 2 of my grandchildren. They're a little older now. They understand a little bit more, and I just sat them down and I said, if you'll learn to ask the questions and then expect answers back, you will get answers. I promise you that. And those answers will show up exactly in the time they're supposed to, and they'll help you find your way. Right? It gets to a point where you begin to realize the give back part of your life requires that you find that pathway and get on it. Gain some experience and then turn around and reach back and pull another one up the mountain of success, okay? I do this annual show for my family basically because I want it recorded somewhere what President Packer shared with me when I was a young man. I got a chance to visit with him, and he came into my life at exactly the perfect time. And when I asked him how you lived a really good life, he said, young man, you can literally dream it up. Everyone gives. The great gift is free. And so you get to decide with every hour of every day what you're going to do with it, okay? And here I am at 18. He says you can dream up a great life and then get up every morning and head in the direction of that dream. Now, I got to sit down with him last year or the year before, can't remember which. He was 92 years old, and we had just done a beautiful piece. I did the really fancy piece of the prayer for Jerusalem. It's on display now in the study center in Jerusalem. And we gave him that piece. He just signed a $3 billion check to rebuild downtown. And so we talked about what it was like to sign a $3 billion check. That's at least $1 billion more than what I've ever done. And so I told him, I reminded him of this story, and he says, well, Louise, did it stick? Did my advice stick? And I says, hook, line, and sinker. You have no idea how deeply that affected me. And then right after that, I bumped into Napoleon Hill and James Allen, and I started to run across positive attitude thinking. And it always starts there. If you don't think you can, you're right. But if you do think you can, you're also right. And it's you that has to measure and change that to whatever degree it needs change, okay? If you can find something to shoot at, then you've got a chance. So once each year, my first show of the year is this one tough test where I try and teach you how to gradually aim your life at something, find a direction and a pathway that really changes and is something you desperately want to do, and then keep measuring it until you actually accomplish. That which you cannot measure, you cannot manage, and most people have not a clue about how to either measure or manage their life's path. What a mistake. How that just should not happen. Should you be led by your quest to own everything? That all you understand is how to be driven? What about that urge inside of you? What about that longing to do something significant? Okay? If you don't know where you're going, it really doesn't matter what path you take. Awfully wide words for a cartoon. And I don't like living like this. This just drives me crazy. I'm not very good at that. If you don't know where you're headed, then any road will do. And doesn't this sign just tell you? I mean, automatically you can tell this probably isn't a good way to live. But how do you do it otherwise? Do what makes you happy, but have a plan in that doing. As I work hard, I'm still struggling with what I hope will be a really defining book in my life. And I've been working with it, working with it, working with it, which is what I think it takes. I've redone it 3 times now. I'm trying to do the Walt Disney thing because uncovering a dream worth living for is just huge. To discover the extraordinary person hidden within each of us is just an amazing process. And I like the idea that there's these 7 concepts, these things that if you're going to take a look at what maybe you ought to do with the rest of your life, you really ought to measure it against those that are important to you. I met Jack 35 years ago. He has the largest collection of brilliant cut crystal and engraved crystal in the world. He has about $40 million worth of art in his life. We took our 3 artists up and did a sketch of him one night, and we were sitting in his main office. And Jack was the inventor of the electronic poker machine and literally took Las Vegas from mechanical into the digital age, and did rather well with that whole thing. And we moved him here to Salt Lake years and years ago. And Jack became my closest friend and my dearest mentor. And I spent the day with him today talking about the future and what things need to be done. And he's been such great counsel to me now that I can literally ask him anything. And what a blessing to get to a point when I got to a certain size, it became really a struggle to find a way to keep managing the company. Woody Searle also came into my life at the very time I needed him the most, was the transition from dentistry to getting my entrepreneurial business started. And this was his life on it. And Woody was just so wise. Oh my gosh. I just couldn't get over it. I would go in thinking I'd sorted it all out and had my best answers, and I'd sit down and visit. We traveled together quite a bit. And I would ask him this long, thought out, really serious question about business, and he'd say, "Son, haven't you figured this out yet?" And he would drop something on me that was the most profound idea, and it hadn't even crossed my mind yet, okay? To become the roles of the mentor and mentee is the 3rd most powerful relationship for influencing human behavior. Short, the family and a couple relationship if it is working. A coach and advisor, a source of encouragement and support, a resource person, a champion, but also the devil's advocate. A lot of people don't like to hear what I have to say sometimes. And I feel bad for that, because I know when I've run somebody off, I get so tired of some people asking the same question over and over and over, and not bothering to risk or dare take a chance to try and prove it out for themselves. No one learns that way, so not always will you hear from us at the company exactly what you want to hear, but you sure should listen, okay? Those guys taught me as much as they knew about individual business success, and I've produced what I think is the best business plan on earth. Now, Opportunity Intersection is 7 steps, 7 books, and each of the books has a video to go with it. And I thought tonight, if I produced the videos after I'd written the book, and I sent and sold the book out 2 or 3 years before the videos were done. If you ever bought the book and have never received the videos, just give Tamara a call at the 800 number, 800-624-7415, and I'll see that the videos are sent out to you email so that you can sit down and go through those 7 videos. But I can't see, if you don't have a plan that you've really locked in on, then get the silly book. and begin to wade into the one thing that can help you the most is a mentoring kind of a program that will help you with some experienced counsel. Get some counsel, make a plan, and then you got something to stay on with. If you don't have a dream to go after, then isn't that where we ought to get started? When I first started seeing concepts that worked around artful hands and this handmade crusade that's just kind of overpowered my entire life, the future of handmade things is really in question. Really got an incredibly difficult future to outguess now because of artificial intelligence or robotics, and mechanics are coming now that can just produce so much more at a better pace and more productive than any human hand. So what will become of human-produced art and creativity? And artificial intelligence is going to change everything, because this year computers started building their own software. You don't have to have someone to put it together for them. They've already gotten smart enough they can begin to build their own software. And that's going to affect mankind more than any other innovation ever has. But out there in the world, when you begin to signal some little whisper, some little thread of interest, there's somebody out there who's done already what you're dreaming of doing. Find them on the internet, and then begin to see if there isn't some way they can't dig out of your circumstance and help counsel you a little bit, okay? Become the change you'd like to see in the world. This is my drawing. I got to brag about my drawing of Gandhi. I did this in a class one time. I just got started, and it started to work out, and I just rolled it on out. And I'm kind of pleased, but I like Gandhi. I like everything that guy did. But in the process of following somebody like Gandhi or anyone else, there is a pattern to their own success. And if you can spot that pattern, then you've got a really good idea of which way you should go. Okay? I like to figure out what others say that can't be done and then go after that, because there's the challenge. When I saw this, I just went, oh yeah, I have no special talent. I'm just really crazy curious. I just love thinking about how in the world does this work. And that's been the substance of my life for 70 years now. When you see something from Uncle Walt like this, put it in your digital journal. Whatever you're going to do it really well. Went over and visited with Craig this week. Craig's one of our leading carving artists, and he's doing incredibly large, exotically beautiful picture frames now. And the frames go around mirrors for Mormon temples the world over. He's showing me all the different temples all over the world he's working on now. And he's got all his patterns around him, and he can play with his ideas and his thinking. And he and the boss and I were arguing over whether something looked English or whether it looked French. And that was such an amazing discussion. And I says, Craig, you're right. I says, would you ever have dreamed as you started in, because he started in this direction 15, 18 years ago. His father, Keith Holm, was our first master. And as Keith retired from teaching school, he started playing in this direction, and he's 85 now, getting on 86, and has just been such an influence in our entire circle. Lived an extraordinary lifestyle from the time he retired to now. And Craig has just picked up even earlier and has done even more, and is going to go way beyond anything his dad and I ever dreamed of. And if you see anybody of the Holmes, the cousin Al Hone or Craig Hone or Keith Hone stuff, oh my Lord, do it well. I've watched them come back and redo and redo and redo things, particularly in the designing stage, in the clay stage. Just work and work and work and work with it till they get it worked out. Now, I put a pattern in my own journal that I followed. And I don't say you have to do it this way, but something like this is a pretty good idea. Wally Goddard carved my sign for me long before there was even a company. I just started carving eggshells just for the hell of it. And he did me a dock's hatchery, and I've just adored it ever since Wally Goddard. I can't thank you enough for that creativity and that effort. It's a deep relief carved sign. And if you remember that Siratrova is the search within, and what you're trying to do is hatch a new you, I finally came up with 7 areas in my own life that are a part of this mental Siratrova. So my hatchery is where I play with my ideas, my studio is where I do my artwork, my library is where I read and write, my treasure are my family and friends, all of you guys. My coaching is where I lift as I go, and my crusade is the real purpose of art. If we don't figure out exactly what the purpose of art is, it literally is the most endangered concept in all of human existence now because of what's now here. Used to say it was what's coming. It's already here, gang. And then the 7th is to learn to share. It takes a little courage to roll out your thinking and say, this is what I think about life and living. But I think it's important at some point you begin to have a confidence in the fact that what you do can literally change the future of some other people's lives. So from very simple beginnings in 1991 at Keith Holmes' studio, we started to teach courses and maneuver our package into a position where it could genuinely make a difference in people's lives. So how could a crusade start out with any more simple roots? From a lousy eggshell. There is nothing on this planet more worthless than an eggshell. So you can't throw not one idea at me that I'm not going to entertain. I think there's just the most amazing fact that something you enjoy doing has an unlimited potential to it. I guarantee you that. And it's such an incredible and great way to grow old anyway. We've got some talented people that have crossed our paths. All of these are some of our men, our masters in TAM. And we just have so much fun watching these guys go from a point of not knowing to begin considering that, oh my hell, I can do this. And then get really good at it. The best friends in my life are the people that surround me now. Norm and I are scouting buddies. We go back so many years together. And Norm started engraving petroglyphs on everything, carving and engraving in every direction. And there's not too many out there bigger than me, but old Norm sure as hell is. I like to introduce each course the 2 men in the media business that changed the course of my life. And Dick Deloche and Dan Ledbetter. These 2 guys worked for Macmillan Publishing. Dan was the editor of Volkswagen Trends, and Dick Deloche was the editor of Trucking Magazine. And they did the first stories about this all beginning. And they're still in the business, and we get together every now and again. This time I've just gone out and taken them to lunch. And we had another little thank you from the guys that helped get things started. So if I can encourage you to track your whispers, track your thoughts. Every day, ideas come to you that have something to do. They're little whispers that have something to do with the pathway of your future. I guarantee it. Write those down. Keep track of those little whispers and thoughts, because that idea will then lead to another one. Okay? And that's how it actually works. I was doing an art show in the parking lot of the Main Place Mall in Santa Ana, California. And we were raising money for a hospital there, and I had sold my eggshells out on the sidewalk actually that time. And I'd had a really good show, and this guy came over after the show, and he says, geez, I've never seen anybody do so well at an art show. He says, who in the hell would guess that anybody would buy a carved eggshell? It was so much fun. And I never told anybody I was a dentist. I didn't dare. I didn't want you to even know. And I run around the country doing these art shows, and he says, I'll pay you anything if you'll get me that equipment and teach me how to do what you're doing. And one more time I told him no, as a lot of you have. because it's kind of your little thing. It's your little treasure. It's your little, this was paying the bills, and I'm getting to play and have a good time and escape dentistry to a degree. And so coming home on the airplane, I kept thinking, my good hell, what heck? Why can't I do that? This isn't hurting my future at all. And so up over Vegas somewhere that day, I came up with the name of Paragraving. Actually, was where the name was born that morning. And I've thought a million times, what if I hadn't taken that moment and then rerouted my life in the direction of building the equipment and putting kits together? That's all I did. I just changed my thought that what's not important was the money I'm making from carving the eggshells. What might be better still is to package what I've learned how to do and begin to sell that as well, because you can do both. There's not any reason to expand what you're playing with and pull everyone else into it that's interested in it. What there is a pattern here, okay? A pattern of going from this, of what I was making, to then beginning to trade what I had learned how to make. And that's what's turned into Success Mountain. I think hobbypreneurism is the smartest way on the planet to start your own enterprise. Start it as something fun and learn how to turn it into a business. Really be careful and look at what you've got as your own individual talents. This discovering within is a huge factor of this degree of success. Every one of our success stories have followed this same pattern. What started out as me and my story quickly became our story. Now what we need most is your individual story and the evolution of your own effort. From an amateur to the master of something, okay? The day we got this cover, this is a crazy story because it didn't start out with me. It started out with Dee McNeely, one of our masters from Las Vegas. And Dee was the content in this national trade magazine for Ingersoll Rand. But when they got done with doing the story about her and it was written really well, they hired somebody to go do pictures, and the pictures didn't turn out very good. So the editor, when she talked to me, was going to kill the article. And I says, let me send you some of my pictures. And so this is my favorite photograph of my entire life. To me, that's me. But to me, that should be you. We got to get beyond ordinary and similarness. We need to be extraordinary and unique. And this came out, it was about 80,000 copies sent very specifically to Ingersoll Rand people all over the world, actually. And those kinds of things then begin to launch who you've become, okay? If you'll start your digital journal and then get really good about playing on Google and Facebook, and then literally start seeing, I saw this ad, The Art of Getting There. Wow, doesn't that just hit you really hard? There's an art to it if you will look at it from that perspective. And all these things are in my journal. This is the first page in my digital journal. Very first page I bothered to keep. I found this article about geese flying and their uniqueness of Thanksgiving and this particular season, and this went in my first digital page. And you sit back and go, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out where the thank you business came from. This silly page has been influencing my life, rubbing off on me for 40 years. Because I really like what I read that day. And all I did was bother to take it out of the I destroyed the magazines. I'm really good at that. I will do a whole magazine just to get one article or one picture. I really will. And I used to put them in my journal, my fixed reality journal. It's huge. I got so much, it's just unbelievable, massive. I had it all in Soulworthy, and then when I moved from Soulworthy, I've had to pack it up again, and now I'm waiting for the studio to be moved and rebuilt so I can get my journal back out. But now I can put it on my digital journal in the second half. Talk about an incredibly good way. You got no excuse for not doing the journal anymore, guys. Okay? Look at this sign. This should just help you. This is it. You're living like that, and the sign says, "Good luck, slow down." I go, this tells the whole story. I was so tickled when I saw this picture. I went, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I am going to put up a sign like that somewhere, sometime." How most men, and I hate to pick on men, but we really, really like this too much. We tell our wives, "Hey, throw everything in the truck. We're on an adventure. Go make a couple of sandwiches. I want to roll to Hawaii this weekend." You just, please don't start this important last period of your life without a plan of where you're going and why. It just doesn't make any sense, because if you do, this is likely what's going to happen. Okay? Probably the easiest adult thing is to get off the track, get off the path, wander off, and get yourself stuck. It's very, very easy, and I'm extremely good at that. And the only way I've been able to reroute and reorient and get myself going again has been my plan. I go back to it every time the second I begin to struggle at all. The discovering, the development, the mastery, and the learning of the sharing of your talent. What better thing could you do with your last few years of your life? In my journal, I have a story about 7 geese flying, and it's a Native American thing, and they notice 7 of anything. And if there's 7 things, then they really pay attention. 7 rocks in the mountain valley, or 7 geese flying, is a really good sign of good fortune. And I just like the ring of that. I don't know if it's true, but it sure feels good. And so what I've done is just look for 7 of everything. 7 is my favorite flipping number, because you know how often it shows up? It's a sequential thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you get something like trust yourself. Then you will know how to live. Allow yourself to be drawn, not driven. The whole goal of a good journal is to be able to spot your strengths and your weaknesses and then figure out what to do with them. That's the reason you're putting it down, is you've got to understand what you're putting down. Why? How come? You're looking for a pattern. Okay, you can't figure out how to measure this, then there's no way in hell you can manage it. When you bump into something like this, I was in Lake Tahoe, and I was in the gallery at the bottom of the resort, and this painting was up, and Ken had painted this painting, and I just went crazy. Oh, it's the most beautiful thing. And so I bought it, and I told the guy to ship it to me, send it home. And a couple of days later, the gallery owner called me, and he says, "Doctor," he says, "this Ken passed away this last weekend, so you happen to purchase the most incredible picture you could have purchased from me ever, because he's now dead and gone." And I was startled at first, because it was my advantage and it was Ken's end. It was his demise. And so I asked him, I said, "Tell me a little more about him, Ken Cragen." And he says, "Well, he used to be a designer, illustrator in San Francisco, and he made his living that way, and most of his life. But he always wanted to move to Lake Tahoe and paint wildlife. Unfortunately, he got his cabin built, and then he moved up here, and this was his third and final picture. So out of a lifetime of wanting to do it, he only got to do 3 in his own Saratoga, his own paradise, his own most centered place. And so if I can encourage you tonight, anyone within the sound of my voice now or on out into the future, don't put the really important stuff up, okay? You are in charge of your own life and living. You can blame it on somebody else all you want, but I guarantee in the end it will be us that is in charge of the inspiration category, and it will be us that needs to get the passion going. Make an investment. Put your heart and soul into what you're doing. A little bit of money where your mouth is. Go get some help. Go get some training. Do some things you've never done before. Challenge your comfort zones and your rut in your life. and see if you can't get that fire lit up, because boy, then things really change, okay? We're in charge of bothering to reach out and encourage others as we go. This is Gary Price's concept. Lift as you go. It really does change how it works, because if you're reaching out and climbing with someone else in the same fashion, you'll be really surprised at the kind of return that shows up in your own life, okay? We're helping others to discover they have some talent, to do whatever it takes to develop that talent, but master it. Get really, really good at what you do, and then learn how to share those gifts. There's no better way to grow old, okay? In the ID Network, we're talking about extraordinary artwork, but I won't move on to mastery here unless you learn how to market it as well. You've just got to figure out how to crack the pot of gold, basically, and learn to do both. Art world teaches this only. They say there's no way you can do both, and they're lying to you. That is not the truth. If you're going to make a living from your talent, you've got to learn the business of the art world. This is the things that people want in their life rather than things that people need, and that's what my whole business plan is all about. Learn to do both, okay? It won't kill you. Please don't make me do anything that feels like work. This is everybody's excuse. The second they find out it's work, then they all just lose interest and go off and find something easy to do. I will promise you that it is okay to make a living making and producing and selling your art. The reason art is the highest category in all of the economy, the expression of life, what it means to live your life and have this experience, is what art is. Personal expression is art. And if you'll just pursue it with that, you don't have to starve. Damn it, you can make a decent living doing this, but you got to learn how the economy works. Most people are terrible traders. Only 3 out of 100 ever start their own enterprise. 97 of us work for those 3. So you got to learn the business side of it. And if you can learn how to do the business, then you won't starve, and neither will anybody else around you. So tonight, and with all of you as a network, you got to remember, we're calling every artist. It's okay to do well in the economy. This will be the place to learn how to trade your art and your work. So keep coming. Every week, if you'll sit down with me, we'll teach a new business principle every week. Right now, we're in the middle of Upscale Marketing Series. We've done the first 3 steps, but they're already over on YouTube recorded. And the next 2 are really important. They're really valuable mixing of the continued learning curve of how in the world can I trade with the more upscale side of the economy. All right? I hope that this has made some sense to you tonight. I hope there's something you can sink your teeth into. It's an old dentist joke. And that which you chew, you are most likely to swallow. That which you swallow, you will become. I am absolutely certain of that. You figure out how to unlock the passion that's chained up inside of you, you're going to change the course of history. That's why do it. If we can help you in any way, give us a call. We're all over the web. ProfitableHobbies.com. We got an 800 number, 624-7415. Give us a call and let us walk you through what our packages and programs are. Until you got the power pen in your hand, you really don't have the technology yet. I can see so many on Facebook that are still carving with slow tools, and I just could cry. I'm going, when you're that good, for crying out loud, get you a decent tool. You have from 30,000 RPM or 40,000 RPM to 500,000 RPM. Have you got any idea the productivity of the power pen? And just because it costs some more money, don't settle for less. Get yourself in a position and in gear, and then start connecting with those of us that are doing the same kind of thing. We can get you there 100 times faster. 1 week with me, that's just what Joe Cummings always says. He says, a few days with me will take 2 years off of your start and your beginning. And I'm going to suggest a week with me in my personal studio fast start program. Yes, you have to come here, and you got to be with me, and I'll pull you off the normal rut of life and living and open up doors you can't hardly even believe that exist, and help you get your studio started. Remember how mine is started? The Lou Jensen studio? Start your studio with your own name. Don't use any other name. We want to grow your own name and reputation as an artist. And if you'll bother to do that and begin to move in this direction of success and capacity, true capacity, you're going to blow yourself clear away. Jeannie is a truck driver. She drove trucks for her entire career and retired and started carving, and just she has a beautiful cabin now. A lifestyle from hell because she's doing something she dearly loves doing. Tamika started, this is my daughter, and Tamika has started several times, and she gets going, and then she kind of lets go, and then she gets involved in something else, and the poor girl is basically inherited my genes, and Lou Jensen's greatest skill is diversion and I get distracted really easy. Procrastination, although I got all those really not good skills and capacities. But all these people have mixed in my life and helped nudge things along. When I ran into Jim Griffiths, bless his heart, this old boy had known how to sell anything. And Jim says, I think you've just uncovered a freaking miracle here. And Jim used to do these hand-lettered magnets. These are fridge magnets. And my quote, the only quote of my life so far, is the miracles in the doing. And this guy helped us get the company started and getting it going. Tamarie's picked up that phone and supported the cause and the people in the network for 28 years now, I think. And when you can kind of mix with those of us that have been playing together with this for a long time, you'll start to sense your belongingness, how it fits and how good it is to be with similar like-minded folks. These are my kids. And they're the ones that had to put up with a very, very eccentric dad. There's only one thing that's been a constant war inside the 90 network, and that's the Coke and Pepsi war. And Keith Holland is a Pepsi nut, and I am a dedicated Coke fan. And so one day he had some cancer removed, and I went out and got the Cokes and Pepsis, and we shot a photograph of where I popped him. Because you can't be a Pepsi drinker, I'm sorry, and be successful here. You really need to stick with Coca-Cola. There's just something about it, okay? And we have 3 programs that we concentrate on a lot: engraving, high-speed engraving, and micro sandblasting, and airbrushing, commercial high-end airbrushing. And everybody who falls in love with a concept, Al is a furniture cabinet maker. He moved into doing custom design furniture, won everything there was to win. He is one of the most successful Western furniture designing artists in the whole world, and has now gone into completely sculpture. And it's interesting how so many do 1 degree, 2 degrees, and then end up in the 3rd degree is sculpting. Danny Wainscott's the most successful gourd artist on the planet. His average gourd is, I think, 15 to 20,000 a piece now. And I remember the day he called. He says, geez, Doc, he says, I'm loving my drill, but I can't think of what to do. And he says, my grandfather planted a whole field of gourds, and they keep calling me. He says, I got 40 acres of gourds sitting here doing nothing. Do you think a guy could make a living carving gourds? And I says, hell, Danny, it can't be any dumber than the dentist carving eggshells. Let's go find out. And as they say, the rest is history. This is our first world champion. Greg Woodard won the world wood carving championship in 1992. He's one of the winningest world champions in history. And he is a falconer. And he also was a cabinet maker. And so from cabinet maker to artist, particularly because of falcons and birds of prey, because he's a falconer. He loves birds of prey. It just, all you got to do is find that precious thread of interest, that thing that just turns you on no end. And then you begin to say, oh, I'm getting good at this. And then just pour it on. Give it, invest in it all you can. If you've not looked at Joe's website, please go pull up joecummings.com, will you? And find him and see the kind of things this guy is able to produce. And then realize that he can teach now. 3 days with Joe Cummings will change your life. I guarantee it. Well, any of our masters, any of them. Keith doesn't teach much anymore. I think Nick Polchuk was on tonight. Is on the show with us tonight. I think he's his last student that I recall. And they're working on something totally new now. But I've watched this man teach and light up people's lives for, 25 years now. It's been incredible. Because a little bit of time with Keith will also light those same fires. And Marilyn, my gosh, Marilyn, I don't know where your name went. It's supposed to be Marilyn Sunderland's studio right there. What a gifted and talented artist. She's trained collegiate, university level art, and then just turned everything into her sculpting. And it's the most proud thing in our lives to see someone make that much progress and go that far. Rick Nichols was in Riverside, California, started doing the custom engraving, and has just moved into everything here, personalized and customized. He does the Rolex account for LA Basin. Anybody buys an expensive Rolex and wants their name on it, Rick is the guy. What does it? Darwin Dower. I can brag about my buddy Darwin as much as anybody on the planet. No one does better work than Mr. Dower. Miniatures that are just scary, and his ability to replicate with the high-speed power pen is extraordinary. And Darwin's moved from an amateur to the master, and so has his price range. And it's just a delight to watch his career continue to unfold. Robert Lee is one of the nation's leading guitar builders and has moved his life in the direction of custom engraving and power carving. And I won't ever forget the day we first met. Robert hurt himself years ago, has been in a wheelchair for 30 years, and you've never met a more positive, exciting, talented, fun person in your whole life. Robert, I just can't tell you how much I admire your skill, your personality, and your nature, and your participation with us. Oh, and I didn't put Mel's work. Mel's going to kill me tonight. I've been working on this because I always forget to stick these guys in here, and I forgot to put their pictures in. I'm sorry. I had it all ready to go, and I thought I was ready, and I'm not. I'll make it up. Wasn't it Mel that just got on and told me that I procrastinated and I was forgetful? And yeah, a few of those things. That's embarrassing. I'm sorry, guys, because I really did intend to get those pictures in before I shot this thing tonight. But who else? Who's listening? Who tonight says, you know what, my mastery of what I'm after is what's really important now? Discovering what you're going to do, your as-is world over to something better. And then you'll have something really important to trade for the rest of your days, okay? Well, I hope that gives you something to think about, something to chew on, and something to zero in on, because, let's see here. Oh, there it is. I figured out how to change. I have to rethink that every time. I hope there's something. If there's not one thought and one idea that didn't grab you a little bit tonight and help you with the thinking of your future, then I suggest you go do something else with the remaining years of life. I can't see how, no matter what it is you do with your life and the remaining years of your living, I can't see how there's not some one concept here that you probably needed to hear the most. And if that's my intention, that's the reason I do this show every year, is to try and reinforce the fact that you can take anything and turn it into your whole life. So I hope that will be the same blessing and benefit to you. All right, we're a little over time. Can anybody got something they want to, other than cuss me for what I forgot? Mel, you can't talk. I'm sorry, I don't dare. Ron, you want to say a word or two, because you've been playing with this crowd for quite a long time.
Well, yeah, just the important points I think that you brought out tonight is that you have to have a passion for something. You have to have a plan. You have to seek out the people that are doing what you want to do, and seek their help and guidance. You have to have a place to work that you call your studio, and sometimes that studio is a tent at an event someplace, and that's your studio for the weekend until you get back home, and that's all right. And then you give your studio a name, like the name of my studio is Serenity. It's Ron Snaberger Studio, but the studio is Serenity, and it's a converted bedroom. Yeah. And then you have to tell people what you do, and you have to have a 30-second to a minute pitch that can be shortened if you need to let them know what you do, and then you have to pass it on to others. The example of passing it on is about a month ago I got a phone call from somebody who's been watching your shows on YouTube every week, and her name is June Holt. And last week I remember that Tammy said that she had made a decision to come and take some classes with you, and I hope that what I told her helped her make a decision. And because we talked for about 45 minutes to an hour, that first phone call. And then a few days ago, I called her just to see how she was doing, and congratulating her on making a decision. And that I think it was a good one, because she's going to find out what material she's really going to like to work on. As soon as she touches it, she's going to know. Yeah. And so that's passing it on. Sometimes just those little words from somebody other than you or Tam-Marie might get them going in a direction. But
you never know, do you? I mean,
no.
You can think back the moments that your life was inspired, how you never know when you're saying something to someone else when you'll actually light up the fire. But if you don't do anything, then nothing happens.
And that's what we call passing it forward, And when it comes to telling people what you do, you got to work on it, and it takes time. And here's my pitch, and somebody can take note of this and work on their own. But I tell people that I create memories that last forever in the hearts and minds of people using a high-speed power pen and engraving on almost any material. It's by far the most rewarding and gratifying thing I've ever done in my life, because not only do those memories last in the people's hearts that I do the engraving for, but I can picture them in my own mind and heart without having a photograph. And if you have a crystal vase, a wine bottle, a piece of jewelry, or a wooden box, it probably needs just one more thing. It needs an initial, a name, a quote, or a personal message engraved on it to make it an heirloom that will last forever.
Can you say it any better than that? I don't think so, Ronnie. Oh, that's so good. Now, the fact that Ron has bothered to do this in his life, guys, this is what I'm trying to point out to you, is Ron and I go back a long way together. We used to sell together at trade shows, and we bumped into each other years ago. And I've watched Ron go from a point of trying to figure out what was he going to do to the point of doing extremely well at it. We're talking $100 an hour kind of stuff. And then to change that. His life changed and his circumstance changed. And so Ron, this last few years, has gone through probably the most significant personal transformation I've watched. We all get those occasions, but Ron has just climbed a whole new Mount of Everest, which is no end now. And with Ron coaching and encouraging people via social media now, can you imagine the future that's coming for Ron's neighborhood? I'm thrilled for you, Ron. I just can't tell you how neat it is to watch that major transition. Tam, are you looking like you can say something?
Yeah, we looked really young in those pictures.
Yes, a few miles down the road.
It has been a few miles.
Yeah.
Good ones, though.
Good
You
ones.
still look young, Tam.
Oh, yeah, right.
Mel can
Same
say
age,
it.
Mel.
How long you had your kit, Mel? You've been a part of the INE for how many years?
Since 1992.
92.
In the same drill.
Same drill. And you're not having any fun at all, are you?
Oh, not a bit.
Not a bit. No, we
I
never.
play with wood, metal, glass. It's my latest little creation.
Look at that. How much fun is that? And that little ring moves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look at that. One thing about Mel Joins that you got to remember is if you tell him he can't do it, he'll kill himself figuring it out. I can guarantee you. But
Or he'll ask him, can you do this? And say, sure. Oh, hell, now what do I do?
Hold my coffee and watch. One of our greatest lines in the network came from Mel Joins. Jay, I want to talk to you just for a minute because you're a really inspiring story now. You've came out of the military and struggled quite a bit and then found your way to go forward, and you do what now? What are you doing for a life and a living? Open up your mic, bud. Your mic's not open.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Bingo. There you go, bud. Now you got it. Yeah.
Alrighty. Kind of what I do now, I guess you could say I take things that are Honda ordinary and make them Harley Davidson extraordinary.
Oh, God, that's new. Oh, I like that.
But no, I have a lot of fun with it. You know, where else can you go? You know, and spend your summers, you know, doing motorcycle rallies, car and bike shows, things like that, and just have a blast doing it.
Yeah, I spent one whole year engraving Corvette core shields, just Corvettes. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to buy that and wanted to write it off, so I was doing a little preemptive kind of business stuff so I could justify the car. And I'd fly into these damn shows and crank up my drill and just slay Corvette owners all weekend long. It was just a ball. So I've had a taste of what you enjoy doing now, Jay, but the biker side of things is pretty phenomenal, isn't it?
It's a different world. It really is. It's a totally different world. Different mentality, different way of life.
Yep.
It's one of those deals where I don't care how many years you've been doing it. You walk into a motorcycle rally for the first time, and you're liable to do nothing. No business whatsoever, because you have to earn their trust and have to build your reputation before they're going to let you touch that bike.
Yep. That's just the whole game right there.
Yeah.
They will not let you until they're convinced that you're it. And it takes a little while to grow that. It's kind of a catch-22 kind of position. And we watched you struggle for a while. But can't we all congratulate Jay on his persistence and his hanging in there? That's probably your greatest asset, my friend, is how good you are at the persistence factor, Jay. And God, has the motorcycle engraving business got a bright future?
I think it does. I mean, it's coming back. There for a while, having hand-on artwork like that on your bike, was a real big thing. Then it started to slack off for a while, and now it's starting to come back again.
Good.
So it's it's a growing deal. It's like I said, it takes time. And especially with most of the guys that's on here, I've talked a lot with Mel online. I've talked to Ron and everything, and I know I don't know how many hours Tam and I have talked back and forth.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, man, I feel like I'm in a slump or whatever. All of a sudden, I'll come up with something, I'll post it up, and she's like, "All right, you've blown my mind again."
Yeah. Well, you're creative.
I have to, Lou, I have to say something here. I mean, Jay does gorgeous metalwork. So does Mel. But Jay sent me a glass piece, and I teach glass engraving, and I went crazy over this piece. His glass work is incredible. So he's multi-talented. It's not just metal and bikes and...
Well, isn't that one slide that one good idea leads to another good idea, which leads to another good idea, and that's where the gold is. I'm convinced that all of you, the miracle will come as you're doing. You'll spot a new idea that it takes as much as you've done already to see that. You wouldn't spot that potential any other way. And that's the position that you're all in right now. I wanted to bring Nick in here for just a minute more, too, on this show, because Nick and I meet thousands and thousands of new people. But I will never forget our first session sitting talking together, Nick. And Nick also showed up when I was first trying to throw Soulworthy together, and we sat and visited at that moment, too, a very, very unusual time in my life. And I've known you for a long time, Nick. You're just you're as interesting a master as we have in our whole program. And when you decide to do it, you're a similar kind of person. You just do not back off. And I suspect that's from your years of what's been your years of profession? What do you do professionally?
I'm an electrical engineer by education, but it's been both hardware and software sides of things that I've dealt with.
Specialized in.
Yep.
And the second you bumped into us, we just screwed your life up something fierce, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, it's been really messy ever since. and
but fun.
We just
Always
fun, having a good time. That part we've got.
Yeah.
I promise everybody only one thing. I says it ain't going to be dull. Hanging out with us won't be dull. I don't know about the rest, but hanging out with us won't be dull. Ed, you're sitting in here and your participation is very steady. You've been in on the webinars as long as I can remember now. And is there anything tonight that you can talk about that is an impression that you think will help new people getting started?
Well, as a lot of you know, I'm still struggling and trying to find my way. So the best thing I can say is if you're in the least bit interested, you really should grab a hold of this. If it takes a while, it takes a while. You know, everything is not going to come overnight. And for me, it's, you know, I'm still working at it. I'm still trying different things and still trying to find my way. But the best thing I can say is that no matter what, I won't give up. Yeah. And so if there's anybody out there listening tonight, just like you've heard all the masters talk, I'm an amateur, so I've got nowhere near the experience or anything else like that. But I'm still here. I'm still fighting to gain my foothold. And I would say to anybody, if you're the least little bit interested, or you have an idea, or even a spark of any kind of inspiration from any of these people, then you should really try your hardest just to get in the program that we've mentioned here on the show, to talk to Tamara or Lou or anybody else, and really give it a try, because you'll find that, you know, there are times when, you know, when I think, oh, I can't do this, and I'll wait a few minutes and go in and start practicing some more. So it's not easy, but it's worth a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun to try.
Thank you, Ed. That's just perfect. Keith Holm, our first master, used to, every course, he would have a whole point he would get to, and he would say, you can do anything you want to do one step at a time. And I think that's what Ed was saying. Just make yourself a promise that I'm going to get my life out of this as-is zone. I'm going to move my life from my as-is world to something better. and then hook yourself up with those of us that are climbing the same mountain of success that you want to climb. And I think we can help you succeed, okay? I hope there's been something here for you tonight. Appreciate all of you who participated a bunch. I don't always thank you every time as much as I should, because you guys who keep coming, we've been having these sessions and get-togethers for quite a long time. And I think we're finally coming down to the nitty-gritty of what really actually helps people change their lives. Because there's got to be, within the sound of my voice tonight, millions of people who their life feels stuck to them. They see no opportunity. They see no way to go. They've lost their faith in themselves and in humanity and in circumstances. The storm of negativity in our world is just unbelievable now. And it takes quite a person to sit back and begin to discover their own talent and their own ability and say, you know what? I am not going to die this way. I am going to find a way to shift my life from as is to something better. Okay? Thank you much. Appreciate all of your participation and comments. Get a hold of us at the 800 number. Excuse me, 800-624-7415. We've had the exact same 800 phone number for 35 years now. And that should tell you a little bit about who we are. What we have tried to accomplish is put a concept in place and shoot it out all over this world. We have, we're battling now, we don't quite know, about 35 to 40,000 customers. So it's been quite an experience to go from an ordinary moment of touching an eggshell with a drill the first time to where it is now. And I keep thinking, what's coming next? Can you imagine who we're going to meet next? Who next is going to get lit up by the dream of mastering something? And if it's you, please let us know. Hook yourself up to this little dream, and let's see if we can't get a fire started for you too. Okay? Thanks much. Good night, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday night. Get to upscale marketing. We got a lot to finish. Okay? Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Nick. Good night,
Good night.
Neil. Good night.